Hello everyone and welcome to InsureTalk number 52. It's May, we're basically halfway through the year, and if you haven't booked your holiday accommodation at the coast yet, I'm really sorry because you're going to battle. That's how close we are to the end of the year and to get a bit of a breathing space. Now at InsureTalk we try our best to come up with the most amazing themes and topics and speakers, and every month I think we won't be able to get something more interesting, but I promise you this month we're on to a very, very interesting theme. Empowering brokers with data and generative intelligence. Not AI, generative intelligence. I try to figure out what that is. I can't wait to hear all about it. We'll hear from our speakers later today on the topic. But we're starting off with a really interesting talk that's not so much insurance related, but I promise you, you want to be here for this insert. It is related to a risk that we insure in the industry, kidnap and ransom. And our first speaker is Tabitha Large. She's going to speak from her extensive experience in advocacy, counseling, and anti-trafficking efforts. And we all know that this is something that is starting to just show its ugly head all over the place. Hearing about school kids being kidnapped for ransom, especially on the young children. So Tabitha is the owner of Revived Consultancy and Therapy, and she's the founder of the Joyful Advocate and Hope Risen Foundation. So as I mentioned, she founded these foundations, and she's a passionate champion for hope, healing, and justice. Through her practice, she offers trauma-informed counseling and strategic guidance to individuals and organizations, helping build cultures rooted in well-being, dignity, and justice. Oh, how we can wish all of our organizations to have those at the heart of what they offer. She also serves on the board of a nonprofit, contributing to initiatives that promote healing and transformation. So she's going to talk to us about advocacy, counseling, and anti-trafficking efforts. And I wanted you to really pay attention because I think this risk around kidnap and ransom, and we have offerings for that in the South African marketplace, is something that we as underwriters and you as brokers need to understand better. So Tabitha, we look forward to your insert today.
Good morning or good afternoon, guests, wherever you are in the world. It is wonderful to be with you here this morning here in South Africa. And yes, thank you very much for having me. I would like to begin by just sharing my screen in terms of what I have available for us to chat with. So let me do that now. To get that on, and I am going to start off by sharing a lot around the online grooming. That is a massive struggle today that we are trying to work with. I'd like to first start off by just sharing that this is going to be quite a sensitive talk. And it is a talk that I would really encourage you to take a couple of notes with, and also please feel free to ask questions in the end. And I would like to start off by just introducing myself in terms of I've been on this field for the last 17 years. And working in the field of anti-human trafficking and working with the very survivors and families who have been impacted by any form of human trafficking. What we saw before COVID was very different to what we are now experiencing since COVID took place. And what took place was there was a massive problem around the online child sexual exploitation and online child trafficking. And it is from that challenge that we experienced that we really knew that we were facing a very, very big problem. And so with that, I would like to just start off by sharing my screen with you. And I want us to look at this word oblivious. For many of us, we are actually very oblivious to what is going on out there when it comes to the online world and online child trafficking and online child sexual exploitation and online grooming. But let me tell you something. It is a very big challenge. And I'm really glad that today many of you are going to get just that one little bit more piece of information that you need in order to further equip yourself and hopefully somebody else, perhaps even save a life by what I'm sharing with you today. So let's take a look at what we are looking at. I'm first going to just give you a brief idea around what human trafficking is, and then I want to go into online grooming. You've already had an introduction of who I am, so I'm not going to go into that. But Hope Risen Foundation was established in 2008, and as you can see, we are very much into awareness, prevention, intervention, restoration, and reintegration. And we focus very heavily around children and families. And as it was mentioned, we also have an element, an aspect of our work that we do, which is absolutely critical, because I spend a lot of time in court where I'm a voice for the children, I'm a voice for the families who are in these very, very difficult situations. And arrests have been made, and we are now sitting in high court or any court for that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, I have what is considered to be a grounding technique in front of you. Please take a photo of this grounding technique, and it is a trauma-informed grounding technique that I highly recommend that you do after this talk. And should anybody feel triggered by anything that I share with you today, please, this is one very, very good tool that you can use to help keep yourself grounded. Right, human trafficking, what is it? Let's take a good look at this. So human trafficking is, when we look at the Human Trafficking in Persons Act, though the act was signed into law in July 2013, it was only passed in our country in 2015. So it's not a very old piece of act. We are still working with government in very, very big ways to constantly relook at this act. And so it's still a fairly new act for us as a country. But according to this act, we see it as a person who is guilty of trafficking if he or she delivers, recruits, transports, transfers, harbors, sells, exchange, leases, or receives another person within or across the borders of the Republic for the purposes of exploitation. Okay, so what's very important for us to take a look there at is that it is for the purpose of exploitation. And so when we are talking about online threats, and we are talking about online child grooming, and we are talking about online child trafficking and exploitation, it is very much that is the purpose. It's to exploit the child, of which at the end of the day, the predator, the perpetrator, the pedophile has one objective, and that is to self-satisfy what they are after in terms of their purpose of exploitation. This may be done through the threat of harm, the threat of use or force or coercion, the abuse of vulnerability, a huge one. Our children are very vulnerable. Okay, children are in general very vulnerable, and at a particular given age, as many of us may know, we are vulnerable in life as a child. And remember, children's brains are not fully developed until 24, 25. Their prefrontal cortex is not operating fully. And so it's very easy, in other words, to actually abuse the vulnerability of our children. There's also fraud. We see a lot of that happening in various sectors where we are now experiencing a lot of fraud, cybercrime, the online aspect of that, the deception and abduction, which can also lead to kidnapping. So let's take a look at what is online grooming, which is a very important element for us to take a look at, because, ladies and gentlemen, nobody can abuse a child, whether it be virtually or in person, without grooming them first. There has to be a grooming purpose, a grooming process in order for any child or for anybody for that matter to actually be abused. And so if we can understand what grooming is all about, then we can start to help prevent any of the forms of abuse taking place, as well as picking up the red flags. So let's take a look at online grooming. I'm just going to try and minimize this bar because it is hiding a lot of my work here. Okay, let's take a look at what grooming is all about. Okay, this is when a predator or a perpetrator or a pedophile has the intention to actually coerce and create a level of vulnerability within that child for the purpose of sexual interaction. Okay, and as we can see the definition there, and online grooming is defined as the process by which an adult builds two things. Number one, an online relationship of trust, and two, influence over a minor, in order to obtain some type of sexual interaction, either online, for example, obtaining sexual images of the minor, or offline, meeting in person with that minor. Okay, so let's take a look at further information. One unforeseen consequence of the rise of internet has been an explosion in the illicit trade of child sexual abuse images and videos. The simplicity and anonymity of the internet has enabled content to be shared many times, over and over with the click of a button. We have an incredible challenge on our hands in terms of explicit images that are not, there's no grid for protection in terms of what is being displayed. It is actually very available on the internet. Please don't go and look for it, obviously, but it is very available. After nearly disappearing in the 90s, the spread of child sexual abuse material exploded with the rise of the internet, while child sex trafficking increased with exposure to a greater market online. Today, the problem is complex and is still growing. Just take a look at these two pieces of statistics of research. In 2004, 450,000 files were found. In 2019, 70 million files were found. This is the number of sexual abuse files reviewed by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Okay, so this is what is taking place in terms of what is happening online. 63% of victimized kids had been advertised online. And take a look at these three apps: Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram, along with many other social media and internet platforms, which have unfortunately become the gateway to predators looking for their victims. And these children are between the ages of 11 and 18 years old. Now, that is quite a lot of information to take in. But what I want you to know within all of that is that the reality is technology is not going to go away. We cannot stop our children from having technology. We've got to teach our children, and we've got to create an awareness around having a healthy understanding and relationship with these apps and with technology, with social media, because we cannot take it away. That is the reality. Yes, there are certain things we can do to prevent children from being further at risk. For example, do we give our child social media at the age of 8? Or do we give our child social media at the age of 13? Or do we do it at the age of 16? Or do we do it at the age of 18? There are definitely various factors like that that we can consider. And that is why we are running such a successful program in terms of our consultancy, working with families to enable this level of prevention that we can put in immediately from the start in order to create a much healthier relationship between the child and technology and social media. Let's take a look at the online grooming model. Okay, stage 1 is victim selection. This is how a predator operates with children online or offline for that matter. Stage 2 is access and isolation. Stage 3 is trust development. Stage 4 is desensitization. And stage 5 is when the post-abuse maintenance actually starts to take place. Now, these stages don't have to all happen one after the other, but they certainly do happen predominantly like this. And this is what I want you to take note of, is that there is a process. There's a journey that the predator works through in terms of being able to lock the child into a position of what eventually becomes Stockholm syndrome, where it's very difficult for the child to actually let go of this relationship that has so falsely been developed. So those are your various stages. Now, for time's sake, for purpose, I'm not unfortunately going to be able to go through every stage with you. It's impossible. But please do feel free to ask for any further information that you may require down the line. I would like to move across to what's very important, and that is starting to take a good look at what we need to do. More importantly, as we end the session, what to do. Number 1, we've got to remain calm and keep the moment as emotionally safe as possible. Should you encounter that your child or somebody else's child could possibly be a victim of online grooming or online abuse, okay? We've got to remain calm, as hard and difficult as it is. But that moment needs to be safe in order for the child to reveal what is going on. Number 2, reassure the child that you are here to help and provide any help that is needed. 3, ask for the child's phone immediately and keep the phone in your possession. That is very important, because we have found on too many occasions, as much as we've tried to do the right thing, if we don't take the phone away immediately in that given moment of the information being exposed to you by the child is going to backtrack and let the predator know that this is what's happened. And it's very easy for the predator to take a run or start deleting any and every piece of evidence. Okay, the phone becomes our biggest valuable tool in situations like this, because we need to make sure we extract evidence and we get what we need for court purposes and to make an arrest. So number 4, do not delete any evidence off the phone and do not communicate with the possible offender. I mention these 4 critical aspects because the amount of times I get asked every single day, what do we do? I don't know what to do. What should I do? I did this and this didn't work, or I went to the police and I got re-traumatized. You follow 1 to 4 steps, and then you immediately contact the Hope Risen Foundation. And there you can see the Hope Risen Foundation helpline number. You can contact, you WhatsApp that number, you email us, and we will be able to help you with anything. So, I'd like to end this talk off by saying you may choose to look the other way, but you cannot say you did not know. And that is the very thing of what you have learned today. And it's only been a snippet of what we do and a snippet of what one goes through. But you've got already a good piece amount of information that you can start with. And please remember that there is a way to identify those red flags, and that's understanding the grooming process. Please remember that there is help out there. We are available for that help. If we are not able to help you because we are overloaded, overworked, or whatever it might be, we will refer to the right people that can also step in and help. But it is very important for you to seek help. Thank you very much.
Yes, and with our theme today, empowering brokers with data and generative intelligence, I wanted to just say to you that we are able to offer these incredible topics because we have people and organizations that support us here at InsureTalk through sponsorship. And today we are very grateful for our headline event partner, Old Mutual Insure, and our event partner, SHA, a division of Santam. Now, SHA is up next on our speaking lineup. We have Mike Tafotuwana, and he's going to talk to us about D&O cover in respect of corporate transactions and insurer's perspective. He is a senior underwriter financial lines at SHA. And as we know, SHA provides specialist liability and all sorts of specialist lines and part of the mighty Santam Group. So SHA, we love having you on the show. We appreciate you supporting us and making your expert speakers available to us. So Mike, tell us a bit more about D&O cover in respect of corporate transactions.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining the session, and thank you for the previous speaker. And yeah, so my name is Mike Tafotuwana, has been introduced, and I will be talking to you about D&O cover and how it applies to corporate transactions. So I will be talking to you from a perspective of an insurer, just to make you understand how we view corporate transactions, because we tend to have a lot of questions from brokers, and we thought we could use this platform to answer those questions. So please just allow me to share my presentation. Just give me a moment. Yeah, I'll share now. Okay. All right, so just as I said earlier, so we will be talking to you about D&O cover for corporate transactions from our view. My name is Mike Tafotuwana, and I work for SHA as a senior underwriter in financial lines. I'm also a member of the Insurance Institute of South Africa, as you can see. I think that's why you can see I've got an affix to my name there. I'm a fellow of the Insurance Institute. So let's just then jump into the presentation without taking your time on that. Let me just quickly. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to okay, there we go. All right, so I thought let me just use this pentagram. I think most of you know it. Growing up, I remember when I started school in grade 1, and because obviously it's one statement that allows you to be able to, if you look at it, it has all the 26 letters of the alphabet. So what it does, they use it as a way to train you to be able to type on a keyboard and to be able to, to write your name and everything in grade 1. And I think, as you can see, my name is so long, Tafatawana. Most people struggle to pronounce it. So I thought, let me just use this as a starting point to our conversation, because I know most people have questions, and financial lines is a specialist area that most people tend to struggle with. So I'm hoping that to give you the information that you need to help you with your questions that you might have with your clients. So then just going to the agenda for the day. So we will be looking at introduction to D&O insurance. We'll also look at corporate transactions, the types and the associated risk with corporate transactions. Then we'll also look at underwriting consideration for transactions. And then we'll look at the common claim scenarios that you'll find in the D&O space. But we'll also look into the future and look at emerging trends that we're seeing and the future outlook. And lastly, we'll look at the best practice. What is it that we can do to manage these emerging risks? And then obviously we'll then conclude with our presentation. So I think just as a way of introduction to D&O, it's Directors and Officers Liability Insurance. Please bear with me when sometimes maybe we use acronyms, but I understand this platform, we've got people that's been in the industry for 20 years, but we also have people that are 20-year-old. So I need to balance the sharing of information to ensure that I think one of the things that we face in the industry is succession planning and so on, and passing information. So I won't take for granted that everyone knows what I'm talking about. So I'll try to give as much information as I can. So in terms of D&O insurance, just by looking at the diagram, as you can see, a day in the life of a director. You can look at all the issues that the director is facing in terms of their day-to-day sort of activities. You've got your social issues, you've got your economic issues, because socially, obviously, a company doesn't operate in a vacuum. They need to ensure that they provide for the community, but at the same time, they've got also to look out for the shareholders. So there is the economic impact, there is the tax element to it, there is an environmental point to it as well, especially now with the emergence of ESG and so on. So a director is in a position where they have to ensure that they cater for all the different requirements from both the internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So you can see there's a lot on a director's plate. And that's why at the end of the day, as you can see on the left, I just thought, let me put a depiction of, you can imagine after facing everything on the right, how does one feel at the end of the day? So it just gives you a picture of the amount of expectation and the amount of work that a director would have in their daily life, okay? So then just by definition, a D&O policy seeks to cover directors and officers for any sort of allegations for wrongdoing that they might be facing in their day-to-day management of a business. So remember, directors and officers are there to ensure that the company delivers to the expectations of the different stakeholders in the business. So liability cover in terms of D&O, it protects you from claims from the decisions that they make on a daily basis. And obviously, personal liability in terms of their decisions. It looks at both current, past, and past directors of a company and its subsidiaries, but also just the financial protection for directors and officers in terms of their day-to-day decisions. Because if you think about it, when companies appoint directors and officers, they expect them to deliver. But those people, they also want protection because they are taking their time and they're exposed to different expectations. So if then we move on to what is a corporate transaction? So a corporate transaction refers to any sort of significant event or change that occurs within the company that would affect the structure of the company, the ownership of the company, and the operations of the company, or the operations of the company. So it can affect either of those elements, and that becomes a transaction because that then would affect the structure of the company or the makeup of the company. In other words, it won't be business as usual after a transaction. And that's why on the right, I show you a picture, a pie chart, which shows the different forms of transactions that a company would face in their day-to-day operations. Because if you look at a company, it's almost like a living being. It's a juristic person, as you know, but it changes over time. It doesn't stay the same. So that's why you'll find there will be people wanting to buy a company. There will be mergers. I think in your life, you've had times where you faced mergers in your business, another company taking over, or maybe a business being sold and so on. So the first part of it is the mergers and acquisitions, which is the biggest sort of activity that we see in terms of transactions. But then we also have IPOs and special purpose sort of companies that want to also get involved. So, for example, in IPOs, if a company wants to list on the JSE, they have to issue out, your prospectus and so on. But that also brings different exposures for that company. Then you've got your divestitures as well, where maybe a company thinks they need to focus on sort of their core business, and then they want to get rid of other divisions. That can also bring in an element of risk. But those are some of the transactions. And as I said, you've got takeovers as well. With takeovers, it can be friendly takeovers where you have someone genuinely interested in the business, but you can also have hostile takeovers where maybe a disgruntled shareholder thinks maybe you're not running the business correctly and they feel like they need to take control of the business. Then you've got private equity companies that can come in as well and invest in your business, and they come with their own requirements as a condition maybe to putting in money in the business. And in certain instances, you've got cases where you want to reorganize your business. You feel like you need to change, because sometimes as businesses, you also find that if you don't change over time, you might find yourself left behind in terms of, we've seen that with a number of companies, even in South Africa, we can name quite a few companies. So those are the main transactions that we find in our space: mergers and acquisitions, IPOs and SPACs, divestitures, takeovers, and private equity, and then finally reorganization. So then maybe the question that you would ask, and the question that we often get asked is, okay, there is this transaction going on. What is it that I need to do? How does the D&O respond? And so on. But then we need to ask ourselves and say, how does a transaction affect or amplify or magnify a D&O risk? And some of the elements that you can look that we find is that because you've got new parties or new shareholders or new people, it's say, for example, in a merger or acquisition taking over, there can be new liabilities that can come with that. And sometimes where maybe, for example, someone is listing on the stock exchange, you'll find that they might have undisclosed risks that are being faced that you won't know, maybe you only know afterwards. So that can be an issue. Then you have shareholder lawsuits, because sometimes when a transaction takes place, not everyone is happy, because you can imagine most companies would have a number of shareholders, and not every shareholder is always happy with every decision that a company takes. So that's why you end up having shareholder lawsuits as well. But in addition to that, we also have regulatory scrutiny that comes with that, because if you think about a company being taken over by another company, maybe it limits competition, that becomes an issue. The regulators get interested and they want to see why such a transaction is taking place. So there's more and more emphasis on regulators actually also focusing on transactions, because they know they do affect competition, and they want it to be fair to all the parties and so on. But in addition to that, the next point is fiduciary duty breaches that also comes with that, because as you know, directors have to make decisions, and sometimes they might not act in the best interests of the company. Some may look out for their own good, and that can be regarded as a breach of their responsibility, and that's why it can become an issue as well. Then another big issue that we find is valuation disputes, because not everyone, people are looking at a company from different perspectives. And what then happens is that the different stakeholders may not have the same sort of view on the value of the company. So some people might be looking at it from what the company owns and how does it then affect maybe what they owe, and vice versa. So because people have competing interests, they tend to look at it from different viewpoints, and then people end up not agreeing on the value for the company. So that also then can amplify the risk in terms of D&O, which can result in disputes. And then so then the question is, we've seen that a transaction actually comes with a risk. So the question then is, how do we do the underwriting for a transaction? What do we do as a broker? Your client comes to you and tell you that my company is being taken over. How does the insurance policy respond to that? So what we look at as underwriters is that obviously we need to ensure that we restructure the insurance, the D&O insurance, to ensure that there is protection before the transaction, and there is protection during the transaction, and there is protection after the transaction. So in all this, obviously, we need to ensure that we are meticulous. We look at the information, and some of the things that we look at is we look at things like the terms of the deal. You look at the fine print as well. So we need to look at the documents that pertain to the deal. We look at the parties that are involved. Are they having any litigations going on? Do they have any past claims that they have that we are aware of? And we look at the nature of the transaction as well. For example, if it's a takeover, is it hostile, which inherently will come with risk, because obviously you've got two parties coming from two different viewpoints. Then also we look at whether it is a friendly transaction, which is something that's mutual between the two parties. Then the second point that we have to look at, we need to do our due diligence as well. We look at the financials, look at the numbers and see if everything is making sense, we look at the balance sheet, we look at the income statement, we look at the sort of cash flow, and just to ensure that the numbers are making sense in terms of why the deal is getting done. So we look at that as well. We look at prior claims. But in addition to that, we also look at we assess our own risk and our own appetite and see, is it something that's within our appetite? Do we need to get reinsurance? And do we need to maybe have co-insurance? Depending on the limit that the client is looking for, we need to ensure that we look at whether we need support from other insurers in the market. So we work with the brokers and we tell them, okay, on this particular one, we're taking 50%, and then the broker has to look for additional capacity elsewhere. Then after we've done that, we can then structure the policy and put in the terms and conditions for the policy. And the policy itself can be tailored to ensure that it caters for that particular transaction. And within the policy, there are different definitions and expectations and so on. So we need to ensure that whatever policy then that we issue is tailored to ensure that we cover and we meet the requirements of the client. Okay. So I think just to give you a timeline, when we're looking at, for example, where there is a merger and acquisition, so in terms of our due diligence, before the transaction, we'll look obviously at the current policy. For example, if maybe the two companies have existing policies, we need to look at them and review those policies and see how the cover can then be merged into one and how run-off cover can be arranged. And we also look at any sort of circumstances that are available which can maybe arise into a claim. Then we also, secondly, once the signing of the deal, obviously what it does, it then shows that there is a change in control. And then once the deal is signed, we then need to ensure that run-off cover is arranged for the company that's being absorbed into the other company, and ensure that everything is in place to cover even the previous directors of the company that's being merged. Then once the deal is closed, then obviously that's when we activate the run-off policy, and then we get to see the new directors and we restructure some of the towers if needed. Because remember, with mergers and acquisitions, you'll find that sometimes maybe in fact, in most times, the company gets bigger, and that could mean that they need more cover. And then also that could mean that then we need to restructure even the towers and the limits and so on. Then post-closing, there could be claims from shareholders. There could be other sort of regulatory issues that can come out of that. Because as I said earlier, not everyone is happy when decisions are made and when transactions are made. And that's why you always almost expect sort of claims from different stakeholders. But as insurers, we need to be prepared for that. Okay, but then just moving on to specific sort of D&O structures that we use in terms of covering corporate transactions. So as you can see, there's three elements, as we said. So the first element is that you need to ensure that where there is a transaction, so it's not every director that can be then included in the new company or in the new management structure. So you need to ensure that there is protection for any former directors and officers for any sort of act that they would have committed before the transaction. And that's why you need the run-off cover. And so that happens obviously when a company is sold or it merges. it typically runs for 6 years after the transaction, and the premium is paid upfront, and the policy is non-cancelable. So that caters for the past sort of directors and acts that they would have committed, because you don't want to leave them exposed as well. Because by nature, liability is long tail, in the sense that things tend to take time to come out. So if you just cancel cover after the transaction, it might mean that the past directors are exposed and you don't want them to be exposed. So that's why you need to ensure that you arrange cover for that. But then also you need to get cover for going forward, because now you've got a new company or a new entity that maybe has new management, new directors, new shareholders. So then you, as insurers, we then need to re-underwrite the new entity so that we can then give cover to the new entity directors and officers that are appointed after the transaction, and for the acts then that they will commit after the closing of the deal. So the cover is for going forward. So we're looking backwards and give them run-off cover, but then we look forwards and give them go-forward cover. And obviously, we need to ensure that the policy limits and the terms and conditions will then be a reflection of the exposure that we're facing. So as insurers, we then need to look at that and ensure that we tailor the cover for the new entity. But oftentimes, you also find where things are not straightforward, it's not black and white. So in those cases, we might find ourselves having to blend the cover. In other words, we customize it by combining both your run-off cover and your go-forward policies. And often you use that where you are involved in complex transactions, typically maybe where you're having different jurisdictions and so on. And it's also typical for SA companies, because because most of the companies are now trying to expand outside of South Africa. And what it means is that now they need to go to, say, for example, Nigeria and acquire a company there, and also at the same time go to Zambia and acquire another company. So you find that it gets complicated. So in certain instances, you have to then combine the two and come up with a blended product. So we don't always take the approach of one size fits all. We need to look at the transactions and then come up with a policy that would cover, will meet the requirements of the insured. Okay, so then just moving on to common sort of claims scenarios that we see, which I've mentioned earlier as well in passing. So one of the big ones is the breach of fiduciary duties. As I said, the directors and officers have a responsibility to act in the best interest of the company and the stakeholders. So what it then means is that if one of the stakeholders alleges that a director is not acting in the interest of all stakeholders, then they can be held in breach of their fiduciary duties, which can then result in a claim. But another big element of exposure or claim is where there is misrepresentation in the documents. For example, when you're doing an IPO, you find that in the end, someone may allege that there was misrepresentation in those documents. Maybe there was overvaluing of the company. Maybe false information was allegedly given. So in those instances, it can result in a claim as well. But another part of that is non-disclosure of material claims, which can also result in some of the stakeholders alleging that maybe when they bought into a company, they were basing it on information that was incorrect, and now maybe something else has come to light, and then they allege that the director or officer didn't disclose such material information. Then of late, and I think it goes back to the history of business, in fact, where you often find that there are acts of sort of activism from shareholders. Maybe sometimes they combine together and almost gang up on maybe on the directors and officers, alleging certain, misconduct. And you also see class actions being taken, being put together to maybe sue the directors and officers. So that can also result in a claim. For example, I think just two cases that I've given here, which are in dollars, but you can put that in rand as well. There's always a lot of claims going on, but I just use these examples. For example, in this case where you've got a $1 billion merger and acquisition, and the directors are being sued for non-disclosure of financial risks, which in the end, it resulted in a settlement of $20 million. So you can see it's quite a lot of money. If you multiply that by 18, you can get a sense of the amount of exposure that directors are exposed to. Then you've got where in the US as well, you've got the Securities and Exchange Commission probing into misleading IPO disclosures as well, which in this case, it led to a 15 million dollars fine, which also is a big amount just for non-disclosure. So you can see there is quite a number of sort of sources of claims for directors and officers. Any sort of misstep can actually then result in a big claim. Okay. So I think just also to look at the global versus local dynamics. So we've seen a growing number of claims locally, but also globally, you'll find that one of the factors that actually affect the exposures in terms of D&O is that the difference in regulations across different countries. So you find some regulators quick to impose fines, big fines. I think we've seen that in Nigeria, where I think companies like your MTN, it's public knowledge, companies like your MTN, your Standard Banks, they've had to endure sort of big fines. But those come out of difference in jurisdiction and application of the law. And with companies expanding across the world, they expose themselves to such sort of different jurisdictions. And that in itself then brings exposure. But also, I think if you are in liability, you know that the USA is always a source of claims, whether it's on a normal liability policy. You'll find that the US, it's litigious, there's high exposure, there's sort of stringent security laws. So also that brings exposure. That's why on our D&O, we often exclude North America as well because of that. But if we need to somehow accommodate, then we have to look at that specifically. Then the EU and the UK as well, they also have difference being applied there, and Australia has its own issues. So you find that globally, the risks are different, but mostly emanating from the fact that you've got different countries applying different regulations. And just by virtue of you expanding into another country, just that cross-border sort of transactions, they bring complexities that obviously would complicate the life of a director and would result in a claim. For example, in this particular one that I highlighted on the map is where there was a lawsuit on overvaluation of a transaction that happened between the EU and a US company. So that in itself, the global dynamics also bring sort of challenges to directors. Okay, so then moving on to looking into the future and looking at what's coming up, what's on the horizon in terms of, because as you know that risks are always changing and there's always sort of different exposures coming up, new exposures. So one of the big ones, some of the big ones that we've seen in our day-to-day operation is things like your ESG. I think it's been the buzzword of late, where everyone is talking ESG, maybe except Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not in for it because obviously there's disputes in terms of climate change and whether or not we need to use coal-fired power stations or we need to move into renewable energy. But the issue of ESG, looking after the environment and the social impact of it and governance, it's always an issue that comes up. And any sort of misstep with a director, maybe overlooking some of the issues around ESG can actually result in an issue in that area. Then also we've seen funding litigation as well, where you've got certain entities waiting to almost give money towards lawsuits. So that in itself then empowers people or embolden people to actually go after, directors and officers for any sort of allegation that they might have. And then there's regulatory activism, which relates to the fact that most regulatory authorities are becoming more and more stringent, and they're becoming more and more focused on how businesses are doing or are operating within their jurisdiction. So that in itself brings a lot of challenges for directors and officers, but also where you have like special purpose companies set up to maybe venture into different ventures or businesses, you'll find that in those instances, like the same with IPOs, is that they might not give the full information, which can result in someone alleging that there was non-disclosure in certain instances, or maybe false information was given. But also the big one that we're facing at the moment, which everyone is talking about, is AI and cyber. So that is becoming an issue. In certain instances, allegations are made that maybe a director didn't cater or they were negligent in not catering for maybe cyber events and so on. So that can become a big issue where there is AI and the use thereof. Maybe how do you decide to use AI for a company? How do you implement it within your company? And that implementation in itself then brings certain exposures to the company, which may in the end result in losses for the company. And then someone would say, you made a wrong decision on that, and that's why the companies. And there's other elements to it as well, but it's becoming a big issue in terms of AI and the exposure to cyber. And then second from last, we just to summarize on the best practices for insurers. In other words, looking at how best can insurers ensure that their clients are covered, and the brokers, how do we assist brokers as well going forward? So one of the ways that we need to do that as insurers is that we need to educate our clients on any sort of post-due duties, and brokers. So between ourselves and our brokers, we need to ensure that our clients are educated in terms of after the transaction duties that they need to adhere to. And then the next element is that we need to tailor our policies. Okay, we mustn't take an approach of one size fits all. We need to ensure that we are dynamic enough to cater for all the different eventualities, for all the different complexities, because as I mentioned earlier, in certain instances, we have to ensure that you maybe combine policies, maybe you put in certain conditions, or you sort of accommodate the requirements of the client. So between ourselves and the broker, we need to ensure that we work together and provide cover that's suitable to the client. And the next point is that obviously we need to ensure that we keep track of our claims. You don't want to lose sight of the claims, and to keep up to date with what's happening in terms of D&O claims, because that helps you in ensuring that we manage our loss ratios. We also ensure that we rate correctly on the policies, we charge commensurate premiums, and we provide fit for purpose cover for the clients. But most also importantly is that we need to collaborate early with our clients and our brokers, because what it does is that you are not found wanting in terms of any sort of exposures that can come out of a transaction. Because what often happens is maybe the client will come to you as a broker late, and then everyone has to run around. So I think when you talk to your clients in your annual reviews, in your annual meetings with your client, you ask those questions and say, has something happened? Has something changed? And they need to tell you. Then you need to act quickly. Talk to your insurers as well and say, your client has advised you of this change, and then you need to cater for that. So there's need for collaboration between the brokers and the clients and the insurers, and that has to be done early. Okay. Then lastly, in conclusion, I think just to summarize on what we've just said, but in 3 points. I think the first point being that because there's always allegations of maybe non-disclosure, lack of transparency, and so on, it's quite important that we give our clients the view that they need to be open to us in terms of whatever deals that they're making. Obviously, we do sign non-disclosure documents to ensure that we don't disclose that information to other people. So we need to ensure that there is transparency, because what it does, it then allows us to know what we're looking at, to allow us to assess the risk, and to allow us to then tailor the cover to that particular client. But and the next point, which I think is a big point, is that we need to look at bespoke underwriting. In other words, just talking back to the point about tailoring the cover to the requirements of the client, because we often find that some insurance has to be dynamic enough to be adopted to the requirements of the client and to be adopted to the requirements of the transaction. And just going back to the point earlier about the fact that we need to, in certain instances, combine our policies. Then obviously as insurers, then we do have challenges in terms of pricing, in terms of the volatility of the market. We have soft markets, we have hard markets, we have international markets, we've got the London market. So that brings a challenge to us. But as insurers, we always want to ensure that we are up to those challenges, we respond to those challenges, and we ensure that our clients are covered for any transactions that they might have. Okay. So, okay, thank you so much for your time on this particular topic. And I'm hoping that I've managed to cover sort of the basics in terms of cover for corporate transaction. And if you have any questions, please type in the comments and just type in your questions, or you can reach out to us and we'll be able to answer some of the questions that you might have. Thank you for your time.
Well, now every month we have a regular insert from the Insurance Institute of South Africa, and no one else but Thokozile Mashlangu, who is the CEO. She provides us with an industry update, and it's always extremely insightful. And like I say, every single month you have to get your membership, apply for your membership, pay for it, and then you are able to attach that position that you hold as a member within the Insurance Institute of South Africa to your title, and it carries a lot of weight. It speaks of people who are aware of being part of a professional organization, doing ongoing learning. IISA is our CPD partner here at InsureTalk, and that's where you get your CPD certificates from, and you will get them. Please, before you start asking in the chat, you get your CPD certificates well on time. I'm very aware of the fact that it's May, so it becomes quite a bit of a crisis. I was scuttling around for my CPD certificates as well. And I know that the producers will pop the email address into the chat if you have any specific queries, so please don't ask on the chat. And on that note, if you have a question, go to the Q&A. We have thousands of people around this virtual roundtable, and the questions get lost. So please, if you have a question specifically, go to the Q&A and someone will take care of that. So Thokozile, Madam CEO, we look forward to a monthly insert.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another InsureTalk, yet another time to catch up and just give you an update from the ISA. And today I thought I will kick off by reminding you of the importance of being an accredited professional. I normally end off with that, so today I thought let me start with that. It is important for every professional in any industry to be accredited by a professional body, and in the insurance industry we are blessed to have the Insurance Institute of South Africa. We are a professional body accredited by the South African Qualifications Authority, so that gives gravitas to the designations that we provide. There are 3 designations and each has got different requirements based on your academic background and your experience in the insurance industry. There are different competencies for each level of designation. We first have the licentiate, we've got the associate, and the highest level of designation is the fellow designation. It's the designation that we all should be aspiring to have. So if you are on the call or you know someone within your teams, within your organizations that has not become an accredited professional, remember the importance of separating and setting yourself apart from the rest of the professionals is very important and critical. It's important to make sure that you elevate your standing as a professional. So take the time to reach out to us at the ISA and become an accredited professional. We are 69 days to the African Insurance Exchange. That's our premium event that we host every year that most of you on the call probably know about and have attended and will be attending. And those that have not registered, you still have a few days to do so before we reach capacity. One of the key focus areas within ISA's transformation strategy is to make sure that we create a pool of skilled professionals, a pipeline that will be able to take over from the current generation that will be retiring, including myself, in the next couple of years. And it is also a focus for us to make sure that we create awareness of the insurance profession. So what we have done this year, we have invited the top 3 of the insurance apprentice to be part of the panelists at the African Insurance Exchange. And the top 3 that you may very well know, the winner, Temwe Nyirenda, Rain Schnelter, Mandilake Matigane, and those 3 will be talking to us at the conference on a topic, cultivating a future fit insurance industry. So they'll be positioning that topic and sharing insights with us on how we can make sure that the industry is future fit. So if you have not registered, the younger generation will be there sharing those insights with us. Another way we are implementing this transformation focus area, you'd recall last year I shared that there were 2 schools we adopted in the Northwest, and that was part of us celebrating or commemorating our 50th conference. And we went to those 2 schools with these 3 young men. We went to those 2 schools and we shared about the careers in insurance. It was pretty much a career day, and we provided them with calculators that would enable them to better study economics, accounting, maths, And we also made a commitment to them that we will adopt some of the qualifying matriculants from 2024 to study a career in insurance starting in 2025. And we are pleased to share with you that we have adopted 2 of those young people. They are part of the Youth Accelerator Program Cohort 3. They've started, they are energized, they are learning, and they are loving learning about the insurance profession. And that's our practical way of making sure that transformation is relevant within the insurance industry. And transformation from growing the skills base of technical insurance skills and making sure that the skills gap is plugged, or there is no need for us to talk about the skills gap when we have created a pool of skilled professionals. I recently had the pleasure of meeting 4 young people, and these are young, bright minds that are studying in BCom in Insurance and Risk Management at Wits. And we invited these young people to join us at conference as well. And they will be talking to us on a topic that they presented at the Risk and Insurance Management Conference in Chicago, where they really looked at climate change, but it was focused on the environment of Chicago. I've invited them to come join us at the conference, but to look at this topic from a South African perspective. And they'll be talking to us on a topic, climate-induced risks, risk in South Africa cities, assessing vulnerabilities and resilience. I mean, it's amazing to have young people who are not even in the industry yet, but have taken a passion to study. And they're young, they're bright, they're vibrant, they're energetic. And as those that know, I am really moved and I've got a passion for young people that are so driven. So do take the opportunity to register for conference and join us to enjoy these different segments of young people that will be presenting to us on topics that they are currently spending time on in researching and investigating, and they will be sharing with us those details with us at the conference. I also want to remind you that it is the end of the CPD cycle at the end of this month. So take the time to update your CPD status by uploading your records if you have not done so. If you've attended any of the accredited events, like commonly the professional reading, the events that the IIG hosts, the IKZN, the IWC, I2, or any other of the accredited content, you do not need to submit the certificate that gets sent to you. The event hosts submit a register to us, and those hours get automatically allocated onto your profile if you're a member. If you're a non-member, yes, you will then receive a certificate from the ISA. So do not duplicate and submit the certificates that you receive from the event host. We will take the opportunity. It's a service we give to members. And again, if you're not a member, it's an opportunity for you to make sure you've got the consolidated platform that you can utilize within the ISA to make sure that your CPD is recorded in one place. In closing, we're going to be hosting a corporate partner engagement mid-June. And this is the first that we're going to be hosting, where we're inviting representatives of corporate partners that we work with on a daily basis, and really just to give you an update on what is happening within the ISA environment, also sharing our strategic priorities, challenges and opportunities, and also just to intentionally hear on how we can collaborate better in the services that we provide to the industry. What are your pain points as an industry, and how can we as a professional body help you respond to that? Our responsibility is skills development, and anything we do is to make sure that we don't only plug skills for now, but we make sure that we are progressive and bringing platforms or initiatives to the industry that are future focused. Until next time, thank you. We shall see you soon.
Did you know I have strong roots in the insurance industry? For the past 3 years, I have hosted the African Insurance Exchange Conference at Sun City, and I am thrilled to have been invited back to host the 2025 conference, which takes place from the 27th to the 30th of July. Now, this year's theme is the Baobab Advantage, multifaceted growth and continuous evolution. The organizers chose the Baobab tree as the theme. Now, this because, like the insurance industry, it's resilient, deeply rooted, that is the tree in the earth, and the insurance industry in the economy, and constantly adapting to the needs and circumstances of our people and our continent. Now, insurance plays a crucial role in our economic stability and growth, protecting livelihoods, enabling businesses to grow, and helping our communities to recover when life takes an unexpected turn. Now, I'm especially looking forward to the changed format of the conference. This is where there'll be 2 sessions running concurrently, that is, plenary and a breakaway session. The changed format also includes having 2 keynote addresses on each day. That's right. On day 1, Mr. Mteto Nyati, the executive chairman at BSG, will deliver a keynote address, and Mr. Abdullah Virashia, a global strategist and lecturer, will deliver the closing address. Now, on day 2, Brent Lindeke and Mandy Wiener will deliver a keynote address that will focus on changing the narrative and making things better. Ms. Puti Mahanyela Dabengwa, on the other hand, who's the SA Chief Executive Officer at Naspers Limited, will deliver a closing address on day 2, focusing on how African businesses can thrive this amidst global economic shifts and scale globally while staying ahead and focused on local strengths. So if you are in insurance, whether you are in life, health, short-term or any other sector, this is your chance to connect, learn and be inspired. So come and join us at Sun City from the 27th to the 30th of July at the premier event on Africa Insurance Calendar. Find out more and book your spot at www.aie2025.co.za.
And back to back with our regular inserts. Next up, we have everyone's favorite, Rianette Whitehead. I can honestly say that because she has such an unbelievable reputation in this industry. She is the co-owner and editor of FA News, and she also looks after the entire Insurance Apprentice organization and production, which I know is coming up very soon. So I'm hoping Rianette's going to fill us in on that very, very exciting season that's coming up on TV this year. This year on TV, on SABC3, prime time it's going to be. And why I'm so excited is I believe we're going to see the people of the young people, the future leaders of this industry in action, and everyone else is going to see it. It's going to double up a little bit as consumer education on how insurance works. And I'm very, very excited about the upcoming season of InsureTalk, the Insurance Apprentice. So Rianette gives us a general update on, media update on what's happening in the insurance industry at large. Thank you, Rianette.
Good morning, everyone. It's always such a pleasure to join you here at InsureTalk. And today, as usual, I'll be giving you a quick roundup of short-term insurance news, a highlight from a great global event that was recently hosted, and a critical scam alert. And of course, a few reminders as we head into the CPD deadline of 31 May. So what's happening in the news? Maybe let's kick off with a few headlines shaking up our space, the stuff we receive in our inbox. Gauteng's deteriorating infrastructure, including water supply issues and power outages, has emerged as a significant concern for insurers. The ongoing water crisis, with supply cuts sometimes lasting up to 86 hours. Yes, for you in Cape Town and other parts of the country, that is a reality. Not only disrupts daily life, but also poses challenges for businesses and emergency services. Insurers are advising clients to consider alternative water resources and invest in infrastructure to mitigate these risks. The rise of artificial intelligence and deepfake technology has introduced new avenues for insurance fraud. Fraudsters are creating realistic but fake images and videos to support fraudulent claims, such as doctored photos of car accidents or property damage. Insurers are investing in sophisticated AI-driven detection systems to combat this growing threat. South Africa, traditionally considered a low-risk environment for natural disasters, is experiencing increased weather-related claims. In the first half of 2024, Santam reported 607 million rand in weather-related claims, a significant increase from 2023. This trend is expected to continue, leading to higher premiums for physical risk and natural cover protection. It is a reality we cannot run away from. Short-term insurance coverage in South Africa is notably uneven, with a small affluent demographic holding the majority of policies. According to the 80-20 national segmentation, the heavy hitters group, comprising just 4% of the population, controls 75% of all mortgages value and 70% of vehicle asset finance. This highlights the need for broader insurance education and accessibility. It remains an issue. I had the amazing opportunity to attend the IFTRIP, International Forum of Terrorism Reinsurance, Risk Reinsurance Pools Global Resilience Conference last week. Sasria is a member of IFTRIP, and it was the first time that Sasria hosted the conference on African soil, and it was hosted in Cape Town. Cape Town weather was phenomenal, so the conference, all in all, for those attending from other countries, was really a special event. Leaders from over 20 countries came together to talk about the future of resilience, terrorism, and emerging global risks. Key issues that was covered in this session was the rise of political violence and how state insurers are adapting to climate events, the use of technology to predict social unrest, and big picture threats like cyber terrorism, ransom, and election-linked instability. It was an energizing reminder that our industry isn't just about managing claims. It's about protecting people and economies from very real, very complex threats. I found the discussions around how other countries approached flood cover very interesting, and most certainly felt that there was a potential model South Africa could investigate. So let's see, all eyes on Sasria. Then I want to raise a red flag about the scam targeting advisors, brokers, intermediaries. A few days ago, we were notified of an individual using the names, it's probably not her real names, using the names SADS, so it's SADS, SM Marketing, and Sadia Rum, RUM. She's been offering fake appointments and books of businesses, claiming to represent retiring brokers and advisors. This has been brought under our attention, and we merely want to warn brokers and intermediaries to be vigilant. She is apparently also working with someone called Clyde. Advisors have paid thousands, and in some cases up to 50,000 Rand for books or leads that never materialize. Payments are taken by cash, send or time bank, and once the money clears, she completely vanishes. Sometimes there are even threats when advisors ask for refunds. Please spread the word and help protect our advisor community and just be alert. From the visuals that I have seen, she does not have a profile pic on her LinkedIn profiles. So that for me should already be a little bit of a red flag. Now for the Insurance Apprentice news that I'm always sharing with you. It will make its debut. It's official. 17 July, SABC 3 will be the first episode. It's a huge step forward for us in showcasing the talent and the purpose that exists in our industry. And it's going to be fresh, engaging, and very, very real. Yes, there's going to be drama. Yes, there's going to be action. But ultimately, there is going to be a hell of a lot of awareness and some education around insurance, what we are all about, why it's important to know the fact that you can get insurance. We cover a wide range of topics this year, from small businesses to insurance as a career, that's sponsored by InsureTalk. The small market, the small SMMEs get a little bit of attention on 2 or 3 tasks. Sasria is touching on the riot, creating a model for the riot story. And I think talking about Sasria, it's very important for me to mention that Sasria is the headline and diamond sponsor for this year. Without Sasria, we would not have been able to take this to the next level, to television, to create the awareness, to make people excited and intrigued about this word, insurance, that we just always have a negative connotation to. So please help me and be excited with me, spread the word with me, so that we can really create that vibe around the work we do as an industry and the fact that it's such a cool industry to go and work in. 17 July, but I will see you again before then. And I promise you, it's going to be amazing. And we have our resident judges. Yes, Judge Dredd. He's actually not Dredd. He's actually such a nice guy. And Cruella. Cruella's called Cruella because she's just very straightforward, and some people call her cruel, but she just tackles it as it is and says it as it is. It's amazing. Please just be excited with us and make sure that you don't miss that. 17 July is 3. We will also share it on our socials. So for those who do not have that channel, we will make sure that you also will see it. It will be aired a little bit later, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, maybe a few days, but it will also be on our normal social channels. Sorry. Lastly, a reminder of the CPD deadline. It's around the corner, and I'm sure you are over it. 31 May is that deadline. If you're still playing catch up, don't panic. There's loads of content on FA News to help you get over that finish line. But patience might have to be your strongest virtue in your quest to finish this in time, because the system is slow. But it's there, it is available. That's it from me. Thank you as always for being part of the conversation. Stay informed, stay inspired, and see you next month. Enjoy the rest of your session.
I can honestly say next up is my favorite part of the entire InsureTalk episode every month, and that's when we get our entertainment. I don't know how the producers do it, to find the most incredible people and young people out there, just making my South African heart beat so fast. And it's no different this month. And one of the reasons why we can do it is because we have a fantastic sponsorship by BASA, that's Business and Arts South Africa. They were established in 1997 as a joint initiative between government and the private sector, and BASA is dedicated to fostering mutually beneficial partnerships between the business community and the arts. Through programs, grants, and research, BASA champions business investment in the creative sector, ensuring the relevance and sustainability of the arts in our society. We are so grateful to BASA for their unwavering commitment to bridging the gap between commerce and culture, enriching both sectors for the greater good. So BASA, I am going to thank you every month because it's generous of you, and it's wonderful that we can break up this day with a bit of just amazing talent. And speaking of talent, Juliet Price is our Cape Town-based singer and songwriter, whose rich vocals and jazz-infused sound have made her a rising force in the South African music scene. Since moving from Joburg in 2021, who doesn't? That's a joke. She has shared stages with artists like a very long list of artists. I'm not going to read all of them. She has a few highlights. In 2024, she was a selection for the National Youth Jazz Band, headline show at the Baxter Theatre, the release of her well-known single, Gently, graduating with an a B-mus in jazz voice, and sold out tickets at the Journey to Jazz Festival, features with Seek Art Show and Big Little. It's a wonderful, talented individual, and we look forward to hearing Juliet entertain us today.
Hello everyone, my name is Juliet Price and you are watching InsureTalk. I am a singer-songwriter from Johannesburg, now based in Cape Town, and this is my original song, Gabby. You can follow me on Instagram on GIULIETTE_PRICE. Hope you enjoy. Better be careful for what you wish for. You better be aware of what you need. When I let greed in and I ask for more, what else could I expect? You better be honest you kiss her, making it hard. Oh, Gabby, can't you see my eyes are green? Oh, Gabby, can't you see how you're hurting me? It's hurting, Gabby. Gabby, you're hurting me. Won't you spare my feelings? Oh, Gabby, why you gotta do this to me? I thought we were friends. I thought you'd be okay. I thought that you like girls more than you like boys. But I guess you'll steal my man. I guess you'll steal him right out my hands. Oh, I guess you'll steal my man straight out my heart while I'm watching you kiss her. I'm making it hard for her while I'm watching you kiss her, making it hard. Oh, Gabby, can't you see my eyes are green? Oh, Gabby, can't you see how you're hurting me? Oh, Gabby, you're hurting me. Won't you spare my feelings? Oh, Gabby, oh, you're hurting me. And now I'm going to be playing a song called Solitude. It's a jazz standard, and I hope you enjoy. In my solitude, you haunt me with the memories of years gone by. In my solitude, I know you taunt me with the reverie of love that never dies. I sit in my chair with gloom everywhere. No one has been so sad. I sit and I stare with gloom everywhere. I know I'll soon go mad in my solitude. I'm crazy. Oh, dear Lord above, send back my love, send back my love. Won't you send back
Send back my love. Send back my love.
Thank you so much. My name is Juliet Price once again, and you can follow me on Instagram at GIULIETTE_PRICE. Lots of love.
Okay, now onto the exciting part of the day that speaks directly to our conference theme of empowering brokers with data and generative intelligence. I didn't practice hard enough. Now, our headline event partner today is Old Mutual Insure. Old Mutual Insure has a history that dates back more than 179 years. Every time I introduce Old Mutual Insure, I'm just struck in awe by how old this organization is. As one of the leading companies in the Southern Africa's non-life insurance market, and it's also known as short-term, as we describe it, they are justifiably proud of their tradition of service and quality, as well as their range of insurance solutions, which are amongst the best on offer anywhere in South Africa. We all know that that's a fact. We either have short-term policies with Old Mutual Insure or life policies with Old Mutual. And we are genuinely honored to have a fantastic speaker lineup here today. And to the team at Old Mutual Insure coming up shortly, thank you for making things a little bit exciting. So today, I'm just going to mention to you who they are, and then I'm handing over to the OMI team. Sol Abram, OMI's Chief Executive Retail, Natasha Williams, OMI's Chief Operating Officer Retail, and then Nicholas Dempsey, OMI's Executive On-Platform Business Solutions. So yeah, let's see what this is all about.
Morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. It is still morning. Yep, 10 minutes to go. Great to be here. Christelle, thanks for the intro. I think it's our 180th birthday this year. So yeah, it is a awesome brand to be a part of. Guys, I'm going to just jump in here because I know we're a little bit behind schedule. So let me share my screen and let's get going. Let's see if this is going to work. There we go. All right. Guys, the conversation today is about transforming and enhancing intermediated non-life insurance using Gen AI. A lot of words there. But in essence, I think everyone's talking about Gen AI right now in the world. Every kind of podcast or news article talks about how this might change our world. While I'm no expert on this, I do have the pleasure of working with some of the guys in the business where we have some really good conversations around how we need to prepare for this. I think it is something we're not going to avoid as an industry. It is difficult to embrace this type of change. It's so rapid. It's so invasive, to be honest. It's everywhere. I opened Zoom this morning, and lo and behold, there's a AI assistant part of Zoom. I don't use Zoom often, but yeah, to my surprise, it was there. Guys, let's jump into the agenda. I want to just take a little bit of a journey. I mean, I guess to understand the risks and opportunities, we may just reflect a little bit on the past and how different technologies in the past have benefited us or hurt us. And I say us, I mean the intermediated industry, broker and advisor industry, and us as an intermediated insurer or sector. So I want to look at the industrial revolutions. I want to look at what the direct insurers have been up to in the last little while, and I'll put context to why I have a tab for that. What is Gen AI? And I had a little bit of fun using one of the Gen AI apps or capabilities, creating a couple of slides for us. And then a little talk about, do we need it? And how do things change potentially with Gen AI, and how do we adapt to it? or adapt will be important in my opinion. All right, so let's jump in. So industrial revolutions. Let's talk about this. So first industrial revolution, and this is just commonly accepted definitions, right? Was in 1760 to 1840. So it spanned about 80 odd years, if my maths is right there. And that's when we transitioned as human beings from manual labor to machine-based manufacturing. And the key innovations included the steam engine, textile production, the mechanization of textile production, spinning jenny, power looms, etc., the advancement in iron production, and the eras of the rise of the factory system. Okay, so that was ended in 1840. Not ended, but the main movements then kind of stopped in 1840. Then in 1870 to 1914, we call it the technological revolution or the second industrial revolution. The key drivers were the widespread adoption of electricity, the development of internal combustion engine, and the mass production like the assembly line, and breakthrough in steel and chemical production. Communication technologies like the telegram and the telephone also emerged during this time. So obviously, some of that we still, use. Obviously, the way we adopted those technologies have evolved since then, but obviously critical to how we function today. Although maybe electricity is a sensitive topic in our country. The third industrial revolution, what we call the digital revolution, was 1969 to the late 20th century, early 21st century, right? So electronics, telecommunications, and computers, right? So obviously all of that is still, let's say, commonly used, but where the computer started, where telecommunications started, where electronics started, and where we are now are quite different, right? But, I think we all appreciate how important or how big that was in our lives. Key advancements include the invention of programmatic logic controllers, the personal computer, and the internet, right? Drum roll for the internet, and the adoption of industrial processes. And then the rise of nuclear energy, okay? And I think the internet, probably the standout there for me, right? Combined with the computer and telecommunications, kind of bringing on, lastly, the fourth industrial revolution, which is currently ongoing, right? We started this revolution in 2010, and it, is ongoing, as I said. And this is highlighted by, or the highlights here are artificial intelligence. We used to talk about AI for the last 15 years, robotics, big data. We've had many talks in the industry around big data and analytics. Cloud computing is something that's been kind of more recent. And then cyber physical systems, and then renewable energy sources gaining prominence. And then I pulled out Gen AI because that kind of is a kind of last 3 to 5 year thing. And we'll talk about what Gen AI is during the course of the presentation. So I'm pretty comfortable that people online not going to have too many issues with the fact that we've had 4 industrial revolutions, and maybe this is the Gen AI in time, maybe 10 years time, we'll call it the 5th industrial revolution, but let's see what happens, right? But I think the question is, how has our industry been impacted by the 4th industrial revolution? Okay. And I'm keeping it quite simple. Again, when I say our industry, I am talking to intermediated industry, broker, advisor, and insurer. How's our world changed from that perspective? Okay. I think the short answer is we saw the prominence of direct insurers kind of taking hold of our industry, not just South Africa, globally, from about 1995, 1998. It became a real big thing in our world, right? And I kind of did a little bit of a deep dive on where are we with this direct market and personal lines and commercial lines. I didn't go into agri and corporate. And I think we all accept that direct insurers haven't gotten into agri and corporate. I think it'll happen, but let's just look at personal lines to start with for now. So this is market share by direct insurers versus intermediated. Intermediated is the orange line on top, and the blue line is the direct insurers. Now, it's not easy to get this data, so I have kind of smoothed it out a bit because data does go missing for some of the insurers over the different years. But I'm pretty comfortable with the overall pattern of this, right? So I'll just look at a couple of data points. In 2007, when, oh goodness, okay, sorry. In 2007, direct insurers were 20% of the market, and intermediated insurers were 80% of the market in personal lines. In 2014, 7 years later, that had changed to 32, 33% and 67%. And fast forward to 2023, it is neck and neck now, almost 50% direct insurers, or I think it's like 47, and 53 for intermediated insurers. Okay, so there is definitely a significant move, but in our industry, our customers are slowly shifting to the direct space, despite the intermediate industry doing what they can to kind of stem the flow of that. Okay, but I know I work with a lot of the brokers online here, and a lot of conversations are personal lines is accommodation business. It is, it's not the highest of premiums, and with the compliance, data, regulatory pressures, it's not as profitable for a broker, or it's too costly, put it another way, for a broker to manage large personal lines portfolios. I know that's a lot of feedback that I receive in the market, right? But I think it's important for us to, when we're looking forward, to just look in the rearview mirror and make sure we appreciate what the late part of the third industrial revolution and the early part of the fourth industrial revolution has done to this market. I don't think we need to unpack why this is happening. I think we're all very aware of why it's happening, so I won't go there. Let's look at commercial lines though, because I'm seeing from where I sit, direct insurers playing a huge role in the commercial lines market. I kind of deleted the older data because direct insurers didn't really play a big role pre-2015. And so you'll see personal lines started back in 2007, but I kind of cut this graph to 2015 to 2023. And what I want you to notice is that there was very little direct insurance in 2015, 95.5, let's call it. Maybe it's 96.4. And now it's already at 12.88. And direct insurers are aggressively entering the commercial market. I don't think we need to think too hard about what happens in 5 years from now. The question for me is, if I go back to the personal lines graph, how quickly will it converge, those two lines, right? And what do we do to protect this industry or the sector that we all love? I've been in the intermediated industry. This is my 19th year in the intermediated industry. I think it's critical. Advice is critical for our customers, personal lines and commercial, and we need to protect it. It can't be let it drift slowly to the direct insurers without putting up a fight. Okay, so we're doing a little bit of reflection. We're seeing that the customers are drifting towards direct. So if we conclude on those two pictures, the digital era, or the end of the third industrial revolution and the start of the fourth industrial revolution, has led to a significant shift in personal lines. Commercial lines started slower, but in the last few years, there has been a material shift. Okay, now, in the last 3 years, I mentioned that this Gen AI thing has gained prominence, right? And I believe it's an opportunity and a risk for our industry, depending on how we adopt Gen AI or large language models, LLMs. Okay, so that's the big question. I don't have a all-seeing silver crystal here in front of me that tells me what's going to happen. But if I look back at what's happened with the digital revolution, it does make me nervous. And I think it's not rocket science to figure out how this might impact us. Okay, so let's talk about the basics. What is Gen AI? So I try to put this together with my team, and then I'll tell you what Gen AI thinks about itself just now. So I was having a little bit of fun in the next few slides, asking some of the Gen AI models out there what it thinks it is. Okay, so generative AI, mouthful. So I'll just say Gen AI from now on, is a type of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating new, original content that resembles the data it was trained on. Unlike traditional AI, which we all spoke about all the way up to even 2018, 2019, traditional AI uses which is primarily designed for tasks like classification, prediction, analysis. It's based on data, and doesn't produce new. It kind of predicts based on historic data, right? Output such as text, images, audio, right? These networks, these Gen AI networks, are trained on vast amounts of data, learning from underlying patterns, structures, and relationships with the data. Once trained, the model can use the learned knowledge to generate new data and share similar characteristics. How I think about this is, I suppose, our journey from toddler to kind of getting your honors degree and becoming a professional. I don't know, pick a profession. I don't know, an accountant, let's say, or a lawyer. As a 3-4-year-old, you don't know much, and you go through your schooling and your high school and your education through your universities, and then you get trained on the job. In essence, that's actually what we're doing with Gen AI. We're feeding it data and information that you would typically study through the course of 20 years all at once. It's highly powerful, and it learns that material, and it's able to produce answers to complex questions that different professions have posed on them, right? And that's how I think about it simplistically. It really is a little human that knows a lot more than I guess a lot. It can store and process a lot more information than we could. But okay, this is lots of fancy words there. So I went to Gemini, which is Google's large language model, and I asked it, what do you think it is? So then it gave me this lovely, I didn't edit this at all, right? So it's a copy and paste. So let's just think about what it thinks about itself. What are LLMs? So this is a commonly used word. LLMs, fancy language, large language models. It's like I'm like a super smart assistant is what it's saying, but it's an AI program, artificial intelligence program. Its main job is to understand and use human language. It can understand what you write or say and generate text that sounds like a human. Now let's unpack why the word large in the large language model. Large because of two things. It is processed on a large amount of data, and there are a large amount of what they call parameters, or alternatively internal settings, right? That we can use to adjust during the training. Now, another very super simplified example of this is, imagine you online now, me, could read everything on Google and remember it forever. That's what the large stands for. We can read a book and kind of remember the general story about, what you read. This thing can remember every word, every letter forever. And it can read every book in the world. Has read when you ask it to, it'll quickly read every article on Google on the top subject matter you're talking about. Right? So it's scary because it's so much more powerful. It's brain, inverted commas, brain capacity and processing capacity is just infinitely bigger than ours. How do they think? Think of it as a super-powered autocomplete. As they process all the text data during training, they learn to predict what words are most likely to come next in a sentence. Okay? By doing this billions of times, they get incredibly good at understanding the patterns, relationships, and structure of language. They can learn grammar, facts, reasoning abilities, and even how to be creative with words. I go back to my analogy of from toddler to campus and then training on the job. What I just read feels like how humans learn, but over 20 years, right? 25 years. And then you kind of get your first job and you get on the job training. This thing is doing all of that all at once. It's compressing 25 years of studying into a very short space of time. What can they do? I think we're all familiar with this. They can answer questions, write, summarize, translate, and they can chat to you. holding conversations that can feel surprisingly human-like, like chatbots, but way better than chatbots. Okay, so let's summarize. What is it? What is the summary it gave us? LLMs are powerful AI tools that have learned to be very good with language by studying a massive amount of text. This allows them to understand what we say and generate human-like text in response to a wide variety of requests. Okay, guys, let's be honest. We're all going to sit here and say, yeah, but insurance is too complicated. We can't do this. I said that. Okay, so I kind of asked Gemini a couple of days ago. This is exactly what I put in, right in bold on top. Give me detailed understanding of how to underwrite a restaurant risk. We are a commercial insurer in South Africa, ... You are welcome to use international data. That's all I gave it, right? I think that's about 20 words. So I gave it 20 words. Simple, right? It's like sending a WhatsApp. Now, Gemini allows you to look behind it to understand how it takes what I said, my 20 words, and how it then structures a thinking process to answer your question. So this is not the answer I'm showing you now. I'm trying to see if I can find my cursor here, which I can't. Can I? Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to get this pointer going. So it took my 20 words and it translated into the following. I'm not going to go through all the words with you, but I just want you to understand how 20 words turns into the next 6 slides of data. I copy pasted this. The user, me, is asking for a detailed understanding of how to underwrite restaurant risk from a perspective of a commercial insurer in South Africa. I, Gemini, need to provide a comprehensive guide covering various aspects of risk assessment for restaurants. I will break this down into several key areas of understanding for restaurants. Understanding the restaurant operations, property risk, fire, cooking, electrical, water damage, natural catastrophes, building. I mean, guys, you guys are advisors. You understand this is all very legitimate. Liability risk, business interruption risk, specific South African considerations, liquor licensing, food safety standards, claims patterns in South Africa, risk management and mitigation, the underwriting process. All of this is just the first page. I took 20 words. This is what it thinks I asked it. I find already that one page incredible. Now it tells me what it's going to do. This is not the answer, guys. I don't actually have the answer on the presentation. It's too long. It was beautiful. I'll tell you about it now. I'll perform a Google search to gather information on each of these aspects on the previous slide, focusing on both general restaurant underwriting principles and specific context of South Africa. And it just gets into a hell of a lot of detail about what it needs to think about, how to underwrite. It keeps going. Then it tells you areas that could be elaborated further might need more specific South African context. Okay, so there's some stuff about the economy, crime, detailed underwriting checklists, claims handling considerations. And then it says, I believe I have enough information to structure a comprehensive answer, right? I will synthesize the information, focusing on creating a detailed understanding of a commercial insurer in South Africa. Now it's thinking about how to respond to me. So it first thought about how do I come up with an answer? This slide, this slide, this slide. Then it's thinking about how to structure the answer. It then goes on to say, I'll do an introduction. I'll do the underwriting process for restaurants. Key risks to consider. Understanding the specific restaurant operations. Risk management and mitigation. South Africa specific consideration and information gathering for underwriting. And it's going to give me a conclusion. Okay, now I took this and the answer. I was a bit naughty and I sent it to my senior underwriters who have 30, 40 years of experience in commercial insurance. And I asked them to critique the response. Like really critique the response. The scary thing for me is they corrected grammar, my underwriters. They said this is a very good response on how to underwrite restaurant risk in South Africa. Right? I didn't tell them it was from a large language model. I just sent an email asking, please, could you look at this? Now, here's another scary thing. This was the free version of Gemini. And I really didn't try hard to get this answer. I put in a silly little WhatsApp text into it, which was 20 words. Now, imagine you had more data or you could frame your question better. Maybe you know which restaurant you're trying to underwrite. Maybe you know where it is in South Africa. Maybe you have the claims history. Maybe you have the details of the risk itself. How big, where, how, some of the questions was asking about liquor licenses, etc. Whatever data you have. Maybe there's backup power. I don't know. But imagine you could now put maybe 100 words into this thing, give it a real nice detail about the specific scenario. Imagine how much better and more specific the answer would have been. Now, why did I create this example? I wanted us to appreciate, I guess, I want us to let go of the concept that, insurance is complicated and this thing won't impact us in commercial lines, right? I beg to disagree. Now, imagine if All Mutual Insure has a corporate large language model, which you can get, so you get a license for All Mutual, and we feed that large language model our underwriting philosophies, our pricing philosophies, which can't be shared back to the Googles of the world, right? It stays in our building. So our IP, imagine we feed it our IP with this base understanding. It is incredibly powerful. I guess that's the message. Maybe a personal example. My dad went for a health check recently on his heart. He's a heart patient from many years ago. And we got a 2-page report from the cardiologist, which honestly, it's lovely structure to the report, but I didn't understand 80% of the word in that report. I put that into Gemini and asked Gemini to make this in plain language. It did that for me in seconds. I sent it to a doctor that a family doctor, a cardiologist, a different cardiologist, with the original and the copy. This is like this week. And he told me the summary that he gave back in simple language is perfect and there's nothing for him to add. So even the medical field where the doctors are using very technical terms about heart and this and that about a patient, it understands. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I think I've made my point. How is this going to impact us? Reduced competitiveness. So the answer to understanding, do we need Gen AI? How's it going to impact us? Depends on what would happen if we don't adopt or embrace it. I just want to take you back to my graph of how personal lines is now 50-50 almost, right? In 2023, it was 54 intermediate, 46 direct, right? My opinion, we as the intermediated industry did not embrace digital transformation sufficiently. We didn't partner enough. So if we do the same thing here, we're just speeding up that curve for commercial lines and for personal lines. So we will become less competitive. When I say we, the partnership between broker and insurer will become less competitive because we don't look as sexy. We're not as cheap as we could be. We're slower than our Gen AI adopting direct insurers, right? Our relationship with our clients will become strained because they're starting to get Gen AI everywhere, right? If Zoom's got it, Teams has got it, I open my mailbox, this thing wants to read my emails and tell me which ones to focus on. It's just everywhere, guys. We're not going to run away from this. And then obviously from a broker perspective, missed opportunity and from an insurer perspective for better coverage. It's always nice to have a little assistant next to you saying, listen, think about this cover, think about that cover, which we may, as an insurer and broker partnership, may miss that, right? Do we need Gen AI again? Sorry, just carrying on. Lagging behind from a risk modeling perspective. So that's more for the insurer. Obviously, Gen AI's modeling capabilities are very strong. So we do need to adopt those pricing and underwriting strategies. You saw what it can do with a simple 20-word question on how to underwrite a restaurant risk, Ineffective risk assessment, similar, right? So we spoke about fraud. I think it was RealNet. Guys, fraud is real. The stuff that comes to us, we don't know what's real and what's fake anymore. In the old days, we could just kind of look at the picture with your own eyes and kind of figure out this looks dodgy. Honestly, the stuff the claims guys are going through to figure out fraud, the syndicates. Brokers are increasingly getting frustrated because claims validation is taking longer and longer. It's because it's nearly impossible for us to now distinguish between what's real and what's not real. We've got to partner, guys, and we're investing so much money into fraud to prevent this stuff from happening. But yeah, I think the key word is partnership. Okay, so let's look at the review mirror one last time. Digitization hurt the intermediated market significantly. We saw the rise of the direct insurer and our sector losing customers. It's undeniable, right? I showed you the pictures. Those are from publicly available data. We've got to make sure that doesn't happen. We've got to adopt Gen AI. In my personal opinion, Gen AI will change the world, and insurers and brokers have to partner to harness the power of Gen AI to grow the intermediated sector. I really personally believe that if we partner and we embrace this thing, we can actually get one up on direct insurers because our customer experience can be so much better if we partner, right? And that's what I'm excited about. The benefits are pretty obvious, right? I'm not going to read through each word here. We are a little bit behind on time. I think one thing I will say about Gen AI for intermediaries is if, let's say, you can handle as a account executive within a brokerage, let's say 300 to 500 customers today without Gen AI, I think in 5 years you should be aiming to handle 800 to 1,000 customers as an account executive using Gen AI in your business. That should be a goal. So double the efficiency. So you're creating time by doing all of these things on the screen. That should be like a practical way to think about how you incorporate Gen AI into what the outcome of incorporating Gen AI should look like. For insurers, and this is where the part is important, we can hyper-personalize product to a customer level, right? In brief, that's what the insurers wanted to do. Everyone could have their own product. Automated underwriting. I mean, guys, I just showed you what underwriting could look like. Predictive risk modeling, needless to talk about. No need to talk about that. That's pretty obvious, right? Innovation from a product perspective, and then our operations, right? This is the one part I'm particularly excited about. Natasha and Nick will talk about this shortly, is that our operational world will absolutely transform, and it will be materially better than dealing with a direct insurer. You will have 24/7, 365 access to this omnipresent, all-knowing being that OMI is signed off, as an example. It knows our underwriting, it knows all the active policies. It's just going to be an incredible future, and we have to embrace that, right? Which makes us look better. Us again, not me, not OMI, our sector, intermediated sector look better. We no longer have a different customer experience compared to these pineapples and nakeds and direct insurers out there. We will be better than the customer experience will be better, and you're getting advice, right? Okay, quickly, last couple of slides. I'll just focus on the slide. I won't read through all of this in detail. Just kind of adoption is important, right? So if we decide to adopt in 10 years, that adoption gap, the gap between the purple line and the blue line becomes too big for us to close, right? So we're somewhere here right now on the Gen AI journey. But if we sit back and say, oh, this is not for us, commercial lines won't be impacted, corporate won't be impacted, we find as an industry, 2030 is going to be here and 2035 is going to be here, and it'll be too far gone for us to close the gap. That's what I would say is my biggest worry for our industry. We've been kind of notoriously slow globally, not South Africa, not the people alone online. Globally, as short-term insurers, we've been notoriously slow to adopt data and tech. We can't afford to do that, in my opinion, with Gen AI. Just kind of what could winning look like for us? We become more competitive, and not from a price perspective alone. Customer experience is now best of all worlds. You can bring all of this together and create a wonderful world. Cost of insurance reduces significantly, in my opinion, allowing intermediated insurers to better compete on price, which means brokers become more competitive as well. I've spoken about hyper-personalized product and customer experience. intermediated insurers gain market share. Let's turn that picture around. Let's get those graphs to go back apart, right? So intermediate insurers gain market share thanks to the broker and insurer partnerships, empowered intermediaries with augmented intelligence. My comment on what winning could look like is a broker account executive doubling the number of customers they can handle today, right? And then our ecosystem becomes stronger, right? Our ecosystem isn't as strong as it should be, and I'm excited about what this could do for us. Guys, I'm out of time. Thank you for listening. Hope it was interesting. And yeah, I'll answer some of the questions online either during the course of the event or after the event. Okay. Thank you. Natasha, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Sol. Just allow me a moment to share my screen. Check if you can see my screen.
No, please go on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Natasha Williams, an executive with over 30 years of extensive leadership experience in the insurance sector. My professional journey includes a series of senior leadership positions in some of the most respected organizations in the industry. Notably, I serve as Chief Operating Officer at Old Mutual Insure, where I've played a pivotal role in driving operational excellence and organizational transformation. I hold a diploma in management from the University of Stellenbosch, a diploma in business administration through Gordon's Institute of Business Science, and I am an associate of the Insurance Institute. When I am not working, I'm an avid reader and table tennis player, and enjoy spending time with my children. Today, I am here to share insights that challenge the status quo and spark meaningful change. So, sit back, stay curious, and get ready to be inspired. Hello, everyone.
So here's a very warm welcome, but with a human touch. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's session. We're genuinely thrilled to have you with us. Today, we're diving into something that's not just innovative, it's transformational. We'll be exploring how insurers, and particularly Old Mutual Insure, can leverage generative AI to reshape broker interactions and streamline operations behind the scenes. But this isn't just about technology, it's also about people. It's part of a broader vision to modernize the insurance experience while keeping it human, personal, and meaningful. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about being faster or more efficient. It's about making every interaction feel easier and more connected. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's explore what the future of insurance will look like together. Here's what I'll cover today. We'll begin with an overview of Gen AI in the context of operations. Then we'll explore some real-world use cases, some already in motion. We look ahead at future developments and innovations. And finally, I'll close with a discussion on the critical role of change management in ensuring successful adoption and long-term impact. So, what is Gen AI in this context? Gen AI is really a type of artificial intelligence that excels at creating new content, whether it's writing text, generating images, or even producing audio. It learns from vast amounts of existing data to generate human-like outputs. But what makes it especially exciting for the insurance industry, particularly the non-life insurance, is its ability to work with unstructured data. Think of all those messy PDFs, emails, handwritten notes, and scanned forms that don't fit into spreadsheets or any policy admin system. And I promise you, we deal with a lot of that. Gen AI helps us turn that unstructured information into something useful, giving us the ability to automate tasks, surface insights, and enable faster decision making. But it's not just about doing things quicker. It's really about unlocking entirely new ways of working. Let's put it simply. Machines can now read and write. And that's a big deal. Why? Because in our world, we deal with a mountain of documents every single day. Policies, forms, emails, reports, you name it. Now, with Document AI, we have a smart assistant that can help us manage all of that. It can read through documents, so demonstrated that, extract important information, and even help draft responses and summaries. That means less manual effort, faster turnaround times, and more time for us to focus on the work that truly needs a human touch. Document AI is already making a difference by classifying documents, streamlining workflows, and reducing the back and forth. And I promise you, we are only scratching the surface of what's possible. So let us start seeing how Gen AI can help us. I must state this, at Old Mutual Insure, our philosophy with Gen AI is not to replace people, it's to empower them. We intend using AI to handle the repetitive, time-consuming tasks, allowing brokers and our service teams to really focus on what they do best, and that is building relationships, offering expert advice, and delivering real value to clients. It's not about removing the human touch. It's about enhancing it. With AI managing the background work, our teams will have more time and headspace to connect with brokers and clients in a meaningful way. And that's where the real magic happens. Let's take a quick look at where Gen AI fits into the insurance product lifecycle. Because it's not just about one moment. It's about adding value at every stage. From the first quote, through sales, underwriting, servicing, and even claims, every step offers a unique opportunity to make things faster and more seamless. Gen AI can help automate repetitive tasks, reduce friction, and create a smooth experience for both brokers and clients. It's not just about efficiency. It's about unlocking time and energy so teams can focus on what really matters, delivering great service and building stronger relationships. We've already seen the impact of quote automation, and I promise you it's not stopping there. Right now, teams are actively building out smart solutions for underwriting and claims too. And what's the goal? It's to cut down on friction, speed things up, and boost accuracy across the entire insurance value chain, from quote to claim. Let me share a quick story with you that really shows what Gen AI can do. Last year, we faced a massive challenge. We needed to generate around 7,000 quotes and fast. To make things even more intense, we had to do it with the same team already handling the usual busy daily workload. At first, it felt nearly impossible. But then we brought in large language models and everything changed. Within just 2 weeks, we had our models up and running. They helped us process those quotes at lightning speed without burning out the team or compromising on quality. It was a massive win and a real eye-opener for what's possible when you combine smart tech with smart people. And that experience didn't just solve a short-term problem. It sparked a bigger shift in how we think about work, efficiency, and the value of Gen AI and what it can unlock for the insurance business. Let's be honest here, anyone in operations will tell you that quoting in insurance can be a bit of a slog. The current process is often slow. It's repetitive, it's packed with manual steps, digging through documents, copying and pasting data and double checking everything. Oh my word, it all adds up. But this is where the good news comes in. We can really use Gen AI to automate that entire process. And quote automation has really been a game changer. With the use of our large language models, what used to take around 45 minutes now just takes 2 minutes. That's not just a time saver, it's a complete shift in how quickly we can respond to clients. Brokers can move faster, clients are happier, and the whole sales process can run a lot more smoother. But now let's think about how we can take this capability even further. What if you could use Gen AI to automatically extract key data from client documents, PDFs, emails, forms, you name it, and instantly generate accurate quotes across multiple insurers? No more manual data entry, no more back and forth. Just fast, intelligent quoting that's ready to go. And the impact? You'll save hours, there'll be fewer errors, faster turnaround time. And most importantly, it puts you, the broker, in a stronger position. You're able to respond quicker, offer more competitive options, and deliver a standout client experience. But this isn't just about speeding things up. It's about transforming the way we work, so we can focus less on admin and more on what really matters. You building trust, closing deals, and growing your business. We're literally teaching Gen AI to speak the language of quotes, literally, and it's learning fast. When a quote request lands, it's really straightforward. The information we need, coverage requirements, client details, risk factors, is often buried in lengthy documents, scattered across emails or hidden in complex forms. Manually pulling all that together, it's time-consuming, repetitive, and let's be honest, no one's favorite task. And this is where Gen AI steps in. We're training it to do what a seasoned underwriter does: read between the lines, understand context, and extract what really matters. It identifies key data points, organizing it into a structured format, and presents it in a way ready for review or action, dramatically reducing the time and effort involved. But this is more than just automation. It's about collaboration. We must build this technology with people who know the quoting process, That's our underwriters, our brokers, our operations teams. Their expertise will really shape AI's understanding. They can help train our models, validate the outputs, and ensure that AI aligns with real-world business needs and not theoretical ones. This is a true partnership with people and technology. The AI does the heavy lifting, freeing up time, reducing errors, and accelerating the quote process, whilst our teams can focus on high-value work, building relationships, crafting tailored solutions, and closing deals. And what's the best part? The more we use it, the smarter it gets. And this, I believe, is just the beginning of a smarter, faster, and more human way of working, where AI doesn't replace people, but empowers them to do their best work. There are also big strides being made in underwriting automation, and the results are really game-changing. Imagine a tool that acts like a super smart assistant or co-pilot for underwriters. Instead of spending hours digging through systems, searching for rules, or piecing together case data, the AI does the legwork. It automatically surfaces the most relevant information right when it's needed. But what does this all mean? It means less time searching, fewer manual errors, and a dramatically smoother workflow. But let's be clear, this isn't about replacing underwriters. It's about amplifying their expertise. By removing the repetitive, low-value tasks, AI empowers underwriters to focus on what they do best, making informed, strategic decisions with speed and innovation. And the result, a better service for our clients and improved throughput for the business. But we can also think of having an AI-powered risk profiling tool for you, the broker. And you might ask me now, but how does that help? Well, think about it as your digital sidekick. It instantly analyzes a client's risk profile by looking at claims history, geographical location, industry-specific exposures, behavioral patterns, and more. It then generates a personalized risk score and recommends coverage options that are actually relevant and tailored to that client's needs. And I know you'll love it because you can then walk into every client meeting with a data-driven game plan. You can proactively guide clients on how to reduce risks and recommend products with confidence. This is not just about selling insurance. It's about becoming a trusted advisor, armed with insights that drive smarter conversations and stronger client relationships. And one can bring the same Gen AI magic that's transforming underwriting into the world of claims. And the impact is just as powerful. If one looks at the claims journey, it has high stakes. And why do I say that? Because it's a high pressure part of the insurance journey. It's where trust is tested and service truly matters. But it's also where inefficiencies, delays, and manual errors creep in. That's why it's so critical to build smart tools to support our claims assessors, tools that act like intelligent co-pilots. These AI-driven assistants automatically surface the right rules, highlight relevant case information, and can even flag inconsistencies or missing data right when it's needed most. And the result? Faster, more accurate decisions, fewer errors and rework, and just a smoother process, a smoother workflow process for everybody involved. It's not about removing the human touch. It's about enhancing it. With AI, the complexity happens behind the scenes. Assessors can focus on what really matters: fair, timely, and empathetic outcomes for our clients. But how can this technology help you? Think about the claims concierge bot. This intelligent chatbot can walk your clients through every step of the claims journey, collecting, validating documents, clarifying policy details, pre-checking submissions for completeness, providing real-time updates and guidance. And all of that can happen before the claim even reaches your desk. And I'm sure you will love this because it will reduce your admin burden, fewer emails, it will improve the client experience, and it will build trust because your clients will feel supported and informed every step of the way. It's like having a 24/7 digital assistant that ensures claims are clean, complete, and ready to move, so you can focus on delivering value and not chasing paperwork. Okay, so this journey is just getting started, and the road ahead is really full of opportunity. As Gen AI continues to evolve, so does our ability to apply it in high impact areas. One of the most exciting frontiers is obviously the sales enablement space, and hyper-personalization matter. And this is where Gen AI can truly shine. So I think it's about actively fine-tuning our tools based on real feedback from the field, because the best innovations don't come from labs. They come from people using the tools every day. That's how we ensure that solutions are not only powerful, but practical. Now imagine having a tool that gives you, the broker, a bird's eye view of your entire book of business, updated in real time, powered by Gen AI. What will this do? This portfolio health dashboard scans your portfolio and instantly flags underinsured clients who may be at risk, upcoming renewals that need attention, cross-sell opportunities you may otherwise have missed, and shifts in client behavior or risk exposure that may warrant a conversation. It's like having a sixth sense in your business, surfacing insights you didn't know you needed exactly when you need it. And why this will prove so useful to you. There'll be no more digging through spreadsheets or juggling multiple systems. You'll have clear, actionable insights that can help you grow your revenue and boost retention. A smarter, faster way to prioritize your day and focus on what matters most. And one must not look at this as just another dashboard. It's really a strategic advantage. It can help you move from reactive to proactive, from transactional to consultative. And that's how you build stronger relationships and a more resilient book of your business. But Gen AI isn't just a tool. I think it's a catalyst for change. Gen AI transformation is not just about plugging in new tech. It's about reimagining how we work, how we collaborate, and how we create value. Yes, the technology is powerful, but the real magic happens when we combine human expertise with AI capabilities. It's about using AI to amplify creativity, spark innovation, make smarter, faster decisions, and deliver real, measurable business outcomes. And here's the truth. Successful adoption does not happen by accident. It requires a mindset shift, a willingness to rethink roles, workflows, and how we define success. To really unlock the full potential of Gen AI, we need to guide this transition with intention. And that's where I believe change management really becomes a game changer. Because this isn't just about replacing people. It's about empowering them. And when we get the human AI partnerships right, we don't just improve processes, we unlock new possibilities. We create a workplace where people feel supported, valued, and equipped to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Rolling out any Gen AI tool is just by the beginning. To truly transform how we work, we need to guide this change with purpose. And that's where the influence model comes in. This isn't about top-down mandates or one-size-fits-all rollouts. It's about creating a movement, one that's grounded in trust, driven by collaboration, and led by people who understand both business and technology. And I really believe to make this transformation stick, we need dedicated change champions embedded within each product line. And these aren't just figureheads. They're really the vital bridge between the people using the tools and the teams building on them. And I really think this matters because when people feel heard, supported, and empowered, they're far more likely to embrace new ways of working. And that's when real transformation happens. It's not just about systems, but it's really about mindset changes, behaviors, and culture. I know I've spoken a lot, but I really want to take this opportunity to thank you for your time, your attention, and your curiosity throughout this journey. We are standing at the edge of a new era, one where Gen AI isn't just a tool, but a strategic partner in how we work, serve clients, and grow our businesses. The possibilities are vast and the potential is real. But the transformation isn't something we do to the business. It is something we do with it together. I must say we're quite excited about what's ahead, but we want to hear from you. We want to hear what excites you. Where do you think these tools will give you the biggest opportunity in your day-to-day work? What challenges can we solve together? So please drop all your feedback, your insights, and any questions you may have in the Q&A box. So guys, I think with the right mindset, the right tools, and the right people leading the way, we're not just adopting Gen AI, we're really finding what's possible. So let's build a smarter, faster, and more human future together. I thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Yeah, so I'm going to just share my screen, and I think it's important that sort of Sol alluded to what's happening in the AI world, and sort of Natasha alluded to how AI could potentially be used within the insurance space, and specifically with the actual insurers. And I thought sort of maybe what I could do is sort of share with you as brokers and intermediaries sort of how this can work within your space. So with that being said, I'm going to start my presentation, but before we do that, I'm going to hand it over to my avatar.
Hi and welcome. I am Nicholas Dempsey, the Executive for On-Platform Business Solutions at Old Mutual Insure. I have been in the insurance sector, both long-term and short-term, for over 19 years and have been with Old Mutual Insure for 10 years now, holding multiple senior leadership positions within the group. I am highly enthusiastic about the insurance sector and believe that our industry plays an important and vital part within the economy of South Africa. I hold a postgraduate diploma in financial planning from the University of the Free State, a postgraduate diploma in business administration, and recently completed my master's in business administration through Gordon's Institute of Business Science. Outside of work, I enjoy spending time with my wife and 3 kids, love watching and participating in different sporting activities, and staying abreast with current affairs. I am pleased to be here today to explore ideas that will guide, ignite, and elevate our professional journeys.
Yeah, so that's the younger me. Yeah, I must say I do like the avatar. It gives me sort of 15 years youngerness, but I think sort of when you look at what Natasha did, she actually did an entire avatar, which is very different. This specific avatar, which is done through Humba, is actually just a picture of myself, and that's actually made, the facial expressions move, sort of the eyes sort of blink, and to make it sort of legit. The one thing though that hasn't sort of figured out yet is obviously the accent, but I'm led to believe sort of that. Within South Africa, there are individuals that are looking at sort of enhancing the accent of South Africans in these specific avatars. So watch this space.
Hi and welcome.
So like I said to you, sort of, we've already been through this. I'm not going to cover it, but my sort of angle today is to look at it from a brokerage standpoint and how you can leverage your sort of AI tools in your space in order to enhance your performance and your sort of capabilities for our mutual customers that are out there within the insurance sector. I guess the question is that how do you go from the left-hand picture, which is a table full of papers and a screen, to the right-hand table, which is a table or a desk that is a lot better looking when it comes to sort of less chaos. And I guess sort of there's lots of analogies in these photos and these pictures. And for me, I think what resonates is not necessarily the tidiness of the desks, but the fact that there isn't anyone there on the right-hand side, is that the individual in question is out seeing customers, is out sort of networking and creating sort of opportunities out there. And based on the fact that they've used various tools at their disposal in order to sort of enhance their capability of seeing more customers and creating more sort of opportunities within the landscape of insurance. That's the way I sort of picture this in my head. But how do you move from sort of that left-hand side to the right-hand side on the screen? Look, you have many options. And I think the one thing for me is sort of how this generative AI has evolved so rapidly in the last sort of, call it 2 years. I think ChatGPT launched at the end of 2022, if I can recall, and how that version has sort of evolved. And now you look sort of 2-3 years later, and you have a wagon wheel of AI sort of functionality out there. I think if I were to sort of just harp on the outside of that wagon wheel, is you've got different tools that you can use to your disposal, from text all the way through to creating video and images, to writing code, as well as speech, just like we saw within that particular image that I started with, and a bit of research. But invariably, sort of you've got a plethora of AI tools at your disposal to work within your brokerages and within your franchises as intermediaries. But I guess the question that we ask ourselves, right, is, and SMMEs are asking themselves, and it doesn't actually matter if in the insurance sector, it could be any sector, because generative AI is pretty much everywhere and anywhere, is sort of the questions that people are asking themselves is, will this actually give me a competitive advantage out there? Other sort of questions is how are my competitors using it in the field? Another type of question is sort of, how can I use this to train my staff? Training is an important aspect, whether it's front-facing staff or back-office staff. Is how do we train the staff, in that aspect? To pretty much sort of how can sort of you streamline creating marketing content for you as brokers and intermediaries that are out there. I mean, these are just a couple of the questions to name but a few that many enterprises across many different sectors are grappling with when it comes to generative AI and how do they implement it within their respective companies. But from an insurance standpoint, is that sort of generative AI can help you in many aspects. I mean, we did see sort of Saul showed you a couple of screenshots with regards to sort of underwriting mechanisms that are in place when you put that specific question through around a restaurant in South African context. Also around sort of, you can use it to create sort of marketing and creation of content. I've mentioned staff training. It can also help with operations and workflow within your operations, within a brokerage, and within a franchise themselves. It creates a better customer experience, and can assist you with sort of the mundane admin that you create, or that is created within your environments. So the mundane tasks, you could automate them quite quickly in that space to free up time in other aspects. And the return on investment, it could be double-fold, triple-fold, or even quadruple-fold, depends on sort of how deep you want to go within the AI space. So what I thought I would do is share with you with a couple of demos on how you can sort of use these tools to your disposal. I know in this particular scenario, there's two sort of quotes, sort of how do we compare the two different quotes? And I know sort of it can take a lot of time to go through one particular carrier's wording and one particular carrier's quotes versus another. But in this aspect, you can basically compare the two through various tools. I think sort of, another aspect is maybe you just want to look at it from a wordings point of view, or a cover point of view, or a limits point of view. So it's not just specific to quotes, but it's more around comparing, what you have on offer, and comparing even renewal terms year on year when it transpires. So there's different aspects that you can use. So the first particular quote, there are two sort of dummy insurers that we are looking at, sort of Zebra Insure and Turbo Insure. And it's a quick sort of 25-second sort of clip to show you the power of what this can do. So as we go, we take those particular quotes straight into ChatGPT 4.0 in this case. We find the two specific quotes in PDF. We put them into sort of ChatGPT. We ask the question, and it's going to come up now. I'll talk a bit faster than how I typed, and then you hit go. And then sort of when you'll see this thing come through real time, and like I said, it's just a dummy quote, dummy insurers out there, and gives you sort of a quick synopsis and the differences in cover. But like I said to you guys, it doesn't have to be sort of quotations. It can be different types of options that you have to compare. Another scenario could be sort of writing an email to a client. You haven't got time necessarily to type out the entire thing, so you give sort of, in this case, you give it to Claude AI, who then types you a specific sort of email at your disposal, which again creates sort of opportunity, frees up time in that sense. So you just punch in what you want to do. In this case, it is a polite email, I guess. You're moving that premium from sort of the renewal increase from 950 to 1.1, and then basically it gives you sort of a body of what the email would look like. It types up that email for you. And by the way, this is real time. This particular video, this is not sped up as fast forward. This is real time as it was going through the recordings. And then once you've got that, you can publish it at the top over here, and you'll see it shortly. And cut and paste, and then you put it into your email, and you just do a couple of changes where necessary. Take out the subject line, put it in the subject line, and then send the specific email. So again, it's just creating more efficiencies within your environments to do more and see more customers at the same time. Another sort of tip is sort of simplifying policy documents. It's taking a word in that might not necessarily, it might be sort of not plain language to a degree, and you'd understand it a bit better. So you can take that specific word in, put it into, again, in this case, it was ChatGPT and 4.0, and you can take this specific word in that's going to come through shortly now. And then you can ask ChatGPT to put this into plain language and give you sort of a feedback on how you might want to disclose it to your clients or your customer. So yeah, so I think sort of again, I'm not going to cover this specific one, but there's also sort of WhatsApp replies. You can do those quite fast when you want to discuss it with your client. and send through a quick WhatsApp, which again enhances that customer experience. I think the thing about AI is, in generative AI, it's always on. I saw one of the comments in the chat field where it's a great sort of thing to have in your pocket because it's always on 24/7, and it gives you that feedback quite quickly that you need in order to give the information through to your customers. Tip number 5 is sort of creating internal training manuals for staff, right? Again, the important is sort of to prompt it, and then you'll see shortly, this is not a video, the specific one, given the time constraints, and I'll explain to you now why it's not a video, but sort of you take the wordings and you put it into, in this case, I used Copilot, which is Microsoft's assistant, and put the wording in, and asked specifically around sort of put in the wording of the PDF document, and asked it to, I need to train my staff on a policy wording for this specific insurer. Please can you put together a 20-page training manual with 30 questions and an accompanying slideshow? And the wording that went into it was about 140 odd pages that went into the specific, into Copilot. And it basically did all of this. It gave you sort of, it told you what the deliverables are. It spoke you through the process. It then said, I'm going to start generating the training material and the training manual, the training questions, and then finally, it did the PowerPoint presentation. And invariably, it even went just one step further and said, would you like me to sort of brand this version with your company's logo and colors? Okay, excuse the spelling, obviously this is American spelling. Can't change Copilot spelling, but sort of you want to add additional slides, any other policy section. So the thing is that it doesn't just do a one-way, it actually has a conversation with you through text, and it prompts you to maybe enhance your sort of offering that you want to do to customers. And the crazy thing about all of this, that generated this from a training manual in Word to a PDF document in training questions through to a PowerPoint presentation, it took roughly 6 minutes. So it frees up a hell of a lot of time in some aspects. I think sort of in closing, given the time constraints, I think for me is sort of just to sum all of this up around the power of sort of generative AI and how you can incorporate this within your environments, is that I think it's important to note I did see some other comments around potentially taking over humans, and I think sort of Natasha mentioned it quite sort of nicely, is it enhances the capability of individuals, of humans. It amplifies sort of the offerings that we offer our customers. It frees up sort of time for the admin, mundane, continuous, monotonous sort of jobs on the go, to sort of spend time more networking with customers and being out there having those conversations with customers. I think at the same time, you know, you can use multiple different sort of AI tools against the wagon wheel on how you can perform and offer this as a rapid, as a holistic sort of offering and these examples. So first and foremost, from a ChatGPT point of view, from OpenAI, what does that do for you? And I mean, there's many others. You saw the wagon wheel, but it kind of gives you that content and that support that you require. If you look at Jasper over here, this specific AI tool, it kind of gives you marketing from a marketing point of view and helps you enhance your marketing skills to get you out into different sort of areas that you might want to sort of progress in as an individual. From a Zapier, which is basically creates sort of automation within your brokerage or within your franchise, and understands automation and workflow, to Notion AI, which talks about productivity, and basically that is meeting minutes, scheduling, sending through sort of like I said, the minutes and the action items, and then Canva, which is another example of sort of content creation and content design. So when you look at it from that sort of perspective, there's different aspects and different types of generative AI out there that individuals can use and wrap within their specific SMMEs and not have to outlay a hell of a lot of money for maybe marketing maybe sort of content creation, or just making sure that the minutes are sort of sent and the action items and the financial needs analysis that is done. So I think finally, from my point of view, I think just a couple of tips. I think sort of it's like having a colleague, that you want to sort of talk to, but the information is real time. I do think it's important that in order to sort of embark on this journey, is prompting generative AI is important. So what you actually prompt generative AI and the information that you sort of get back, it just has to be clear, and even in a human way, because generative AI can sort of recreate text, can recreate images, and it can converse with you and maybe strike something else that you haven't necessarily thought of. At the same time, you're still in control, which is interesting, right? Because you're going to get all this information at your disposal. You are in control because you can choose to use the information. I think it's also important, though, to when you start the process, if you haven't started yet, is to validate the information that you're getting from reputable AI, generative AI sort of tools that you're using, and to consistently sort of just double check it and not constantly agree that maybe all of it's 100%, but a lot of it probably is, but sort of just to validate it to make sure that you are comfortable with all the information at hand. And like I said, you are in control with regards to that. So help you decide. I think sort of in closing for me, and this quote has resonated with me for many a year, is the one by John F. Kennedy. And I had a couple of quotes in the slides, but I did move with a quick given the time constraints. Is that change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. So with that said, it would be great if maybe we can do a Mentimeter. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague who's going to flight the Mentimeter. But I think if you don't mind, if it's possible, I know there's sort of, we're over one, I think it is at the moment, but if we can go there and sort of go through sort of the Mentimeter. So it's www.menti.com. The code's 18410063, or you can just use the QR code. It's 18410063. And we just got a couple of questions to maybe ask you in the forum. Just your views of generative AI. We'll give it another minute. I can't quite see how many are in. It doesn't look like a hell of a lot at the moment. Okay, lots of thumbs ups coming through here. The numbers are moving. So it's www.menti.com, and it's 18410063. Randall, should we go into it? So do you believe generative AI is relevant to your business operations? I think it's a resounding yes of 97%, which, I mean, I think it's great given sort of where we are. I think sort of it can definitely assist. But again, like I said, you're in control, validate what comes through, and there's different generative AI sort of tools out there to wrap within your business. Maybe we should go to the next one. I think it's a resounding one. On a scale of 1 to 5, how willing are you to integrate generative AI into your business processes? I think, yeah, very willing, extremely willing. I think is leaning towards that side of the coin, on that side of the spectrum, which again, I think we have to embrace it, right? We have to embrace it in order to move, just like the JFK quotation. Should we go to the next one? When do you plan to start using generative AI in the business? Within the next 6 months? Okay, that's the leader at the moment. No plans to adapt. Okay, is fourth, which I would assume would have been within the next year, within the next 2. Yeah, I think it's important, obviously, just to stay within the times, right, of where we are. Do you want to go to the last one, I think, Randall? So what do you perceive as the primary benefit for using generative AI in your business? Increased efficiencies. Yeah, that seems to be the leader of the pack. Enhanced creativity and innovation, and the third is improved customer experience. I think by default, increased efficiencies will invariably, I would say, improve customer experience throughout the entire value chain, whether you're the insurer or the carrier, as well as yourself as the intermediary out there. So, yeah. Listen, I would like to again thank you. This was my maiden InsureTalk session, so very honored to have been here today, and thank you very much. And I'm going to hand it back over to Christelle. Thank you.
Okay, how awesome was that? I just have to say, thank you for taking so much effort and going the extra mile to not just entertain us, but educate us. And that goes to all the speakers today on the lineup. I always say it's really, really tough speaking to 4,000 people live. It's not easy. So we appreciate all of you and your efforts. I want to remind you that it's CPD cycle almost at the end of it. Your CPD certificates will reach your inbox. If you're an IISA member, it will happen automatically and be uploaded to the platform if you're registered on the platform. So please go and do that. I want to wish those of you thinking about going to the AIE, Africa's most premier insurance conference, that you'll come back enriched and ready to take on big obstacles that we have in the industry. And for the rest of it, thank you very much for joining us again today. We are nothing without the people who sign in every month to listen to the speakers at InsureTalk. So from me, Christelle Coleman, thank you.